Ma'am, stop resisting and get down on the ground now.
Resisting? I am standing still with my hands visible.
You're showing aggressive behavior. Get on the ground now.
Officer, I am a sitting district attorney. You are making a very serious mistake.
I don't care who you think you are. Get on the ground.
My hands are empty. I am not a threat, and your camera is recording everything. Every second of this will become evidence, and you are violating long-established legal principles.
The Westfield UTC parking lot security cameras captured it all. Every barked command, every heavy footstep on the concrete, the tension tightening the normally calm atmosphere of a weekend afternoon. And Officer Bradley Cole had absolutely no idea that the woman he was ordering around like a prime suspect was District Attorney Monique Harris, who had spent more than 15 years pursuing justice, prosecuting police brutality cases, protecting civil rights victims, and helping build the very standards of law enforcement oversight that he was now blatantly violating. The woman standing next to the black Lexus didn't tremble or beg. Her face was so composed that onlookers stopped to stare. She was DA Monique Harris, the one who had directed rigorous internal investigations, the one many officers in this very police department respected and feared for her integrity and her ability to hold anyone accountable when they crossed the line. The story began from that seemingly small moment, then unfolded into a journey showing why this woman's identity mattered so much, and what had brought her to a position where one police mistake could shake an entire system. Monique Harris, 46 years old, was born in Atlanta to a family of teachers, where every conversation revolved around responsibility, justice, and the value of standing up for the vulnerable. Her parents weren't wealthy, but they taught her that a sharp mind combined with compassion could change an entire community. Family dinners were often discussions about civil rights history and the people who had paved the way through steadfast determination. Monique grew up in that environment, and when she chose the path of law, she did so not for fame but because of an unshakable belief. The law only has meaning when it protects the most vulnerable. Her years as a prosecutor led her to become the District Attorney of San Diego County, heading numerous respected justice reform programs across the state. Her initiatives focused on keeping Black and brown youth out of the carceral system, supporting domestic violence victims, and building legal networks for low-income areas. Many called her the embodiment of Black excellence, but those who worked with her knew it was her genuine kindness, not her title, that earned the community's trust. That Saturday afternoon when the incident happened was an utterly ordinary day. Monique had spent a few hours shopping for gifts for a nonprofit program in Southeast San Diego. As she pushed her cart out of the mall, she was only thinking about Monday morning's meeting, the list of legal aid approvals to sign, and the young people waiting for counseling. But in the Westfield UTC security monitoring room, a young employee was watching the cameras and made a brief 911 report. There's a Black woman loitering near the luxury cars. No specific description of behavior, just a vague impression shaped by bias. And from that baseless call, events began spiraling in a direction no one anticipated. Officer Bradley Cole received the dispatch. He was on afternoon shift, tired and bored, but the keywords Black, suspicious, luxury cars immediately shifted him into rigid action mode. He didn't assess the level of threat, didn't ask questions, he just drove straight to the reported area. As Monique opened her trunk to place the gift bags inside, she heard quick, decisive footsteps behind her. Before she could turn, Cole was only a few steps away, hand on his holster as if facing an armed suspect. "Is this your vehicle?" His voice sharp and tense, not the tone of an officer checking information, but of someone who had already reached a conclusion before speaking. Monique looked at him. "Yes, this is my car." Cole didn't notice the keys in her hand. He just repeated harder, "I need to see your ID." No explanation, just a command. Monique stayed calm. "Would you please tell me the reasonable suspicion that justifies you asking for my ID?" she asked in precise legal terms. Cole paused, as if surprised that a woman standing alone knew exactly what question to pose in this situation. He dodged. "I'm investigating suspicious activity." "What activity?" Monique pressed. Cole didn't answer directly. He just waved his hand, signaling her to step away from the car. He began circling the Lexus as if searching for invisible evidence. "I need to check the trunk," he said. Monique responded immediately. "You have no legal basis to search my property. I do not consent." Her voice was firm enough that two passersby stopped to watch. A middle-aged woman pulled out her phone to record as the situation grew tense. Cole saw it, and his discomfort was obvious. He was used to people complying meekly, but the presence of cameras and Monique's confident words made him lose control more and more. He escalated further, ordering her to step back from the car again, then demanding ID once more. Monique knew exactly where the safety line was in these encounters. She understood that arguing further in a parking lot wouldn't help, especially when the other side was no longer operating on legal logic, but on defensive instinct. She slowly took out her wallet, presenting her driver's license and her district attorney's office credential card. Someone nearby exclaimed, "She works for the DA's office." Cole looked at the card, but instead of recognizing his mistake, he grew even more tense. His eyes shifted from confusion to suspicion, as if her very professionalism was now reason to doubt her. Monique said softly but sharply, "I work with the San Diego Police Department every day. I never imagined I would be treated this way." Cole didn't respond. He took her license, walked back to his patrol car, and ran her information. The results came up quickly. No criminal record, no reason to detain her. Everything was valid. This should have been the moment he walked back, returned her documents, and ended the encounter. But Cole glanced in the mirror, saw several people holding up phones, saw Monique standing tall with fearless eyes, saw himself cornered. If he backed off now, he would look like the one who had been wrong from the start. The cameras made retreat even less acceptable. A small mistake became a big one, then ballooned further purely because of ego. Cole stepped out of the car looking more determined than before. Instead of de-escalating, he ramped up pressure by circling back to Monique, claiming he needed additional verification, despite having no basis. He asked disjointed, aimless questions: what she bought, how long she had been there, why she stood by the car so long. Each question made onlookers see more clearly that this was no longer a routine check. It was stalling to find justification. Monique kept her voice steady. Every calm answer made Cole more uncomfortable, because it exposed the lack of foundation in his actions. Tension in the parking lot thickened. Some passers-by stopped to watch. Others began recording. The growing crowd added more pressure on Cole, and he redirected all of it onto Monique, the woman standing calmly before him in an almost eerie way. He knew he had gone too far to turn back. Most officers in this situation would back off with just a mistaken check, but Cole didn't. He believed stopping now would mean losing face. He chose to keep pressing, even as it became increasingly obvious he had no legal grounds to continue the detention. Monique saw it. She had witnessed many similar incidents while running the DA's office. She understood this psychology. It was dangerous, especially when paired with power and the gun on his hip. She stood still, eyes calm like someone observing a truth revealing itself. And in that moment, Officer Bradley Cole made the decision that pushed the incident past the point of no return. A decision that would cost the city $6.7 million and turn that peaceful afternoon into a textbook example of modern racial profiling. Cole returned to Monique with tension he could no longer hide. His eyes darted quickly over the raised phones, then fixed on her calm face. As if to prove the authority he felt slipping away, Cole declared, "I need to search this vehicle. I suspect there are stolen items inside." The accusation had no basis in any actual observation, but Cole stated it with absolute certainty, as if personal confidence could substitute for probable cause. Monique looked straight at him and said, "My refusal to consent is not grounds for you to create probable cause." A few nearby people whispered after hearing that. Cole flushed. Being challenged in front of a crowd was something he couldn't tolerate, especially coming from the woman he had eyed suspiciously from the first second. He choked back, then growled, "You're obstructing an investigation." Monique kept her calm gaze. Instead of arguing further, she opened her wallet again and pulled out the district attorney card. A hard card with embossed seal and clear ID number, the kind any experienced officer would recognize instantly. "This is my identification," she said. Cole looked at the card, but instead of admitting the mistake, he tilted his head, trying to cling to control that was slipping away. This card could be fake. The statement made several people around gasp. Then a witness from behind shouted loud enough for half the lot to hear, "I know her. She's the DA of San Diego." The people filming immediately buzzed. Another confirmed, "Yeah, I saw her on the news last week." The wave of recognition spread faster than Cole could react. The truth only made him more panicked. Stubbornness became a complete breaking point in his behavior. Cole clenched his fists, ordered in a higher, more urgent voice, like someone fighting panic, "Turn around and put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest." The entire parking lot seemed to hold its breath. Monique stood straight and said just one sentence clear enough for everyone nearby to hear. "You are creating evidence against yourself." Cole hesitated, but his ego still won. He yanked the handcuffs from his belt, stepped behind Monique. "Oh my gods, and he's crazy." Trees rose from the crowd. A man started live streaming. A teenager yelled, "She's the DA, "You're breaking the law." But Cole didn't stop. The metallic click rang out as the cuffs locked around Monique's wrists. She didn't resist. As he grabbed her elbow to lead her away, phones followed them, capturing every step, every shocked face of the witnesses. That moment, a DA handcuffed in a parking lot by an officer too arrogant to admit a mistake became the centerpiece of the video that later went viral across America. And right then, as Monique was led past rows of lenses, the fate of Cole, the case, and San Diego's city budget was sealed. When the patrol car pulled into Northern Division Station, Cole hadn't spoken since leaving the parking lot. While Monique sat in the back, her calm eyes knowing every passing second would become damning legal record against the officer who had just cuffed her. When Cole opened the door and led her into booking, several officers looked up and froze briefly. The demeanor of the cuffed woman didn't match any suspect they had ever seen. Ramirez, the female officer on booking duty, approached per procedure. "Name and charge." Cole answered curtly, interfering with an investigation. Monique stayed silent, waiting for process. But when Ramirez took her wallet to inventory, her eyes stopped on a hard card with an embossed seal, a familiar identifier. She pulled it out, examined it closely, and in 3 seconds understood exactly what was happening. The card was real. No mistake possible. Ramirez looked up at Cole, then at Monique, then turned and walked quickly to Lieutenant Thompson's office without another word. Thompson, who had 20 years supervising watch, opened the card. When he saw the name Monique Harris, District Attorney, San Diego County, his expression changed instantly. He stood, dropped everything, and walked straight to booking. He saw Monique seated on the metal bench, hands still cuffed. He turned to Cole. "Have you verified her identity?" Cole fumbled. "I thought the card might be fake." Ramirez beside him quietly pointed to the screen. An officer had already pulled mall camera footage and Cole's body cam. Thompson watched every second, every unreasonable statement, every improper demand, every calm response from Monique, and finally the cuffing, all laid bare, impossible to explain away. When the footage ended, Thompson said, "Call the assistant chief here." An officer ran off. The atmosphere shifted completely, as if everyone simultaneously realized the gravity of the mistake. The assistant chief walked in. Ramirez handed him the DA card. Thompson replayed the video. When the cuffing scene appeared, the assistant chief looked straight at Cole, eyes cold. "Release her immediately." Thompson nodded. He stepped to Monique, voice low and sincere. "District Attorney Harris, I am so sorry." He bowed his head again, and a third time. Tense silence filled the room as Ramirez removed the cuffs. The lock clicked open so loudly the whole area seemed to pause for a beat. Monique rubbed her wrist lightly, then stood, face still composed, but her eyes sharp like someone mentally cataloging every detail for the next legal step. "I need all materials related to this incident," she said, voice clear and firm. "The 911 report, all body cam footage, arrest report, list of officers present. I want everything within 24 hours. Thompson replied immediately, "We'll prepare and send it to you tonight." The assistant chief turned to Ramirez. "Make sure every file is backed up right now. Nothing gets lost." Officers around them moved at once. Everyone understood the legal risk they faced. Monique picked up her wallet, phone, and car keys from the property tray. As she walked down the long hallway of the station, each step echoed clearly, as if the entire building was listening. Some officers looked down. Some watched her in stunned silence. Some looked like they had just realized what they witnessed today would shake the entire department. Thompson personally escorted her to the door. No extra words, just the heavy silence of someone who knew this mistake couldn't be spun in any way favorable to Cole. When the sliding doors opened and Monique stepped out, the late afternoon light fell on her calm face. But that calm wasn't the end. It was the sign that everything was only beginning. Inside the station, officers' confused glances, urgent phone calls, and rushed file copying all showed the system had started collapsing from the moment Cole raised those cuffs. And now, no one in Northern Division Station doubted this arrest would become a legal storm sweeping through all of San Diego. The witness video from the parking lot was posted to Twitter just 1 hour after Monique left the station, and it almost immediately began spreading beyond control. In under 6 hours, it passed 1 million views. By the next morning, 3 million. Within the first 48 hours, it hit 10 million. With hundreds of thousands of comments and dozens of angry hashtags targeting the San Diego Police Department. The tweet carrying the video read simply, "Officer arrests Black DA for loading her own car." The irony, the outrage, the disbelief, all merged into a public storm. Major networks picked it up fast. CNN covered it in morning shows, MSNBC ran deep legal analysis in prime time. The Los Angeles Times published long witness interviews, and the Washington Post ran the headline, "District Attorney handcuffed for doing nothing wrong. San Diego faces crisis of trust." Images of Monique in cuffs, still standing tall, still composed, appeared everywhere, completely contrasted with Cole's fumbling words throughout the video. The patrol car lights reflecting, Cole's off-rhythm shouts, Monique's steady voice, everything combined into irrefutable evidence. Public pressure slammed into the San Diego Police Department like lightning. Facing the wave of anger, the department's public affairs office issued a statement. "We have opened an internal investigation. The incident is being reviewed seriously." But that brief statement only fueled more anger because everyone knew the video already said enough. Internal Affairs was ordered in on day 3. A team of veteran investigators was assigned to review every action Cole took from the first second at the scene to bringing Monique into the station. Bodycam, radio logs, parking lot cameras, witness statements, all compiled into a thick file. Every second of footage reinforced one conclusion: Cole had exceeded authority, violated procedure, and acted on bias rather than legal grounds. But the investigation didn't stop there. Per policy, Iowa had to examine Cole's entire work history to determine if this was isolated or part of a pattern. It took only 2 days to find a clear answer. Cole had stopped black drivers at 3 times the unit's average rate for 3 consecutive years. The justification reports for those stops were mostly vague, repeating suspicious behavior without specific descriptions. His vehicle search rate on black drivers was also abnormally high, while his contraband hit rate was the lowest in the unit. One investigator exclaimed while reading the data, "This has been a ticking time bomb for a long time." The initial internal report noted that potential racial bias was a likely factor influencing Cole's chain of behavior. The phrase, usually used cautiously in legal documents, appeared repeatedly in the evaluation files. When news of Cole's profiling history leaked to the press, community outrage grew even stronger. Civil rights organizations held press conferences demanding transparency and severe discipline. Black community leaders appeared on television asking directly, if even the district attorney is treated this way, what are ordinary people enduring every day? At city council meetings, residents stood to speak, voices shaking with anger. They demanded accountability. They demanded protection. They demanded justice. While the police department was engulfed in criticism, Monique remained completely silent with the media. She declined interviews, issued no statements beyond one short sentence through her office. "I will let the record speak for itself." And she did exactly that. Monique spent all her time reviewing every document Thompson sent, the 911 report, body cam footage, radio logs, arrest paperwork. She read every line like preparing an indictment in a major case, missing no detail. She met with civil rights attorneys, consulted experts, compiled witness lists. No attacks. Just the cold focus of someone accustomed to building airtight litigation files from the smallest violations. And as public pressure continued rising like a massive wave across the city, people began to understand that Monique's silence wasn't retreat. It was the sign she was preparing for something far more powerful, an action that would decide the fate of the entire case and the San Diego Police Department itself. The pressure from public opinion and media hit the San Diego Police Department so fast that no leader had time to maneuver. 3 days after the video reached 10 million views, Officer Bradley Cole was placed on administrative leave for serious procedural violations. But everyone understood leave was only a stepping stone. When Internal Affairs submitted its thick, detailed investigative report, from Cole's baseless escalation, improper arrest order, to his history of racially skewed stops, the termination decision was signed almost immediately. A clean end. That same day, the U.S. Department of Justice sent formal notice opening a pattern and practice investigation, the kind of federal probe reserved for agencies showing systemic civil rights violations. The DOJ demanded 5 years of stop data, internal complaint records, use of force reports, disciplinary files, and lists of officers with outlier stop rates. A very clear message: Cole's incident was no longer seen as isolated, but as a window into deeper issues in the city's law enforcement culture. While federal investigators combed records, the city began facing enormous legal risk. The viral video, Cole's exposed profiling data, and Monique's silence kept public sympathy firmly on her side. The city's legal department advised settling before a federal lawsuit was filed. Negotiations started cautiously, $500,000. Monique's side refused. The city raised to $1 million, still refused. Up to $2 million. No change. Participants in the talk said Monique showed no anger and made no personal demands. She simply repeated one position: the amount had to reflect the harm, public accountability, and the message needed for the community. After weeks of tense negotiation, the city offered the final figure, $6.7 million. Some city council members objected, but their lawyers stated plainly, if this goes to trial, the number will be higher. Monique agreed to sign, but what shocked the press wasn't the amount. It was her announcement that she would donate most of the settlement to funds supporting Black youth, organizations representing victims of police discrimination, and legal mentoring programs she had backed for years. I don't need this money, she said at the press conference. I need the system to change. That statement made front pages across major papers, and the public's reaction to her action was even stronger than the reaction to the arrest video. To them, this wasn't just a successful lawsuit. It was proof of the dignity and grace of a woman who stood in the eye of the storm without letting anger consume her. When the DOJ completed its federal investigation, the hundreds of pages report concluded clearly a structural pattern of discriminatory policing existed in the San Diego Police Department's stops and checks. That finding forced the department to sign a consent decree, a multi-year federal oversight order requiring comprehensive reform, collecting and publishing stop data, independent monitoring, implicit bias retraining, and full reevaluation of contact and control procedures. Things the community had demanded for years now became mandatory under federal order. Change didn't come from a speech or an election. It began from the moment a Black DA was wrongfully handcuffed in a parking lot, and from her ice-cold calm that forced the entire system to look at itself. The $6.7 million was just a number. The lasting consequences were what became permanent. When all the reports, investigations, and settlement were finalized, Monique's story didn't end at the $6.7 million figure, but at a much larger question about systems and people. The video of her being handcuffed, a Black district attorney standing beside her own car, has now become mandatory training material at police academies throughout California. Future cadets are required to watch it not just as a procedural error, but as a lesson about power, bias, and the consequences of letting ego override the law. Because if a DA who knows the law, has status, has reputation, can still be treated like a suspect solely because of her skin color, then what do ordinary citizens face every day? People without cameras rolling, without titles protecting them, without legal teams backing them. That question echoes in hearings, community meetings, and every in-depth article about the case. But for Monique, what mattered wasn't the outrage. It was what she could do from here. She returned to the district attorney's office and continued her work with deeper compassion and stronger conviction that justice must be enforced from the smallest moments. She met with profiling victims, spoke with community organizations, pushed new reform programs. She didn't turn herself into a symbol. She simply kept doing what she believed, using the law to protect those who aren't heard. And ultimately, when the city cut the $6.7 million compensation check, people began asking themselves, how much does justice cost? And when a city has to pay that price, do they truly learn anything? If you believe stories like this need to be shared to promote accountability and change, please hit the subscribe button right now. Thank you for following to the end. See you in the next stories.